Hi there, welcome to this week market analysis and update. Right, so as usual, quick disclaimer: everything we're covering in today's session is solely based on educational purposes, and of course, we're talking about the live market here. So any opportunities and setups that we mention, just bear in mind that you need to do your own individual risk management plan, right? Because I have no idea, and obviously I won't be able to understand your risk appetite, etc. Right? And of course, as we progress, if you have any questions, just feel free to chat. Put it into the chat, okay? And then if I, see your questions, I'll be able to answer them along the way. All right. So Ashok here. Good evening as well. So we get started. I'll run through the overview of the markets. Based on principles that combine the Elliott wave as well as the smart money concept (SMC). Okay, and I'll highlight some of the trade setups that you can look out for within this week. I'll start off with the dollar index. Okay, so dollar index here, if you take a look at the bigger picture perspective, right? We are kind of looking at a bearish market cycle, and overall we're expecting more downside. Even from wave theory perspective, this is where we're expecting wave 4 to complete, and we are in anticipation that wave 5 is developing. Okay, and of course over here what we then look out for is if we can get price to just come back up towards the key area between the 50 and 618 Fibonacci, so that's around 99.45 to 99.7. Okay, this is the area that we can look out for sell trade setup. Okay, on the dollar index, and we can't expect this to move lower to retest the low around 97.90. Okay, so that's the current expectation that we have on the dollar index. We're going to be maintaining a bearish bias overall. And of course, then on the euro dollar side of things, we'll be looking at the inverse, right? The opposite of things. Okay. So right now, of course, the market is still moving, right? Ideally, we would like to see some sort of a pullback from here, a little bit lower towards the key area between 1.1350 to 1.1317. If you can get that pullback there, then of course that will open up an opportunity for us to look for the buy trade. Okay, so as long as price actually respect the swing low at 1.12, we'll be maintaining a bullish bias, and if price can enter into our key area, we'll be looking at a buy trade setup. Okay, in a while I'll talk about the setup because we do have some examples over here this week where we have a clear opportunity, right? So I'll talk about those setups on the lower time frame, specifically on the dollar yen and potentially gold trade. Okay, GBP USD, we are looking at short term downside expectation, right? So short term here, we are expecting price to just move a little bit lower and potentially back towards this minor low here. Okay, even as a potential liquidity sweep around 1.3437 to 1.3395. Okay, if you can get that area, that would be a very, very decent area to look for a buy, right? Because then we'll be looking at this as an impulse late, this here as an expanding flat structure, and then we'll look for upside from there on. Okay, so keep an eye on that area. Once price enter into that territory, that's where you want to look out for a buy trade setup. Okay, and then we have the Aussie. Aussie right now, I'm a little bit on the neutral side of things, being a little bit patient because I would love to see some sort of a confirmation from the market first. At this moment, okay, it's a little bit on the limbo state, right? We do have like price trying to break the top, but really haven't broke it yet. We have this minor low here that price hasn't also take out of that low. So overall on Aussie dollar right now, we're just gonna maintain a being patient perspective. If price can actually take out this low here impulsively, okay, and then if it starts to pull back correctively, then that's where we can look for sell opportunity. Okay, so this one probably need a little bit of time. I'm just gonna keep this aside for now. Dollar Canadian. Dollar Canadian is currently, I would say, potentially developing a diagonal structure. The confirmation I would love to see is price taking out this minor high at 1.3740 impulsively, right? So if market can kind of take out that high, starts to do a pullback, that's where we can look for buy trade setup. Okay, so at this moment, we're just gonna be patient and wait for a reversal. I don't think you want to rush things through. Okay, but potentially what we're seeing here is that this can be the bottom as of now, right? But of course, we want to wait for that confirmation where price take out that swing high first. Okay, so that's on dollar CAD. And then going into the dollar yen, right? You can see I've flagged this, so this is definitely one of the key pairs I'm pretty interested in. Okay, so dollar yen here, what I'm looking at is we have price respecting the channel quite a bit. Okay, from here you can see, so as long as price is actually respecting this low, okay, and of course this channel here as well, I'm just gonna maintain a bullish bias, right? Now the primary sequence you can see is bearish, right? The primary sequence here is bearish. However, it's basically a transition potentially from bearish to, you know, upside. Okay, now it's still in the bearish sequence because this is essentially a down move, right? But we are in anticipation that it may have been bottomed and price may start to move higher from here on, right? And that would then complete, okay, this entire cycle of 1, 2, 3, okay, meaning a bigger structure of a WXY. All right, that's what we're expecting. Okay, so this one here, if I go down to the lower time frame, okay, we do have a couple of things that seems to be setting up for now, right? So this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure and the setup. Okay, so on the lower time frame, we have market put in this low. Okay, the price went up, came back down, didn't really break that low, and then, you know, make another move and successfully take out this high. Right, so from SMC perspective, this is where we, you know, label this as a break of structure. Okay, so if you have a break of structure to the upside with high, 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 low, then obviously this is currently in a bullish sequence. It's a bullish cycle. Okay, and of course this is the lowest point just before the market break it. So that is our swing low. Right, so in other words, as long as price is trading within this range, this low and this high, we are bullish bias, right? Unless price take out this low. Okay, so what we are waiting for is if the market is able to pull back correctively towards the Fibonacci key level, okay, that will put us around 143.40. That will be an area that we can look for buy opportunity. Okay, now this setup is not kind of like 100% all the conditions are fulfilled, because this area of 67 Fib, we don't really have a confluence. Okay, I mean, we do have a little bit of an inverse fair value gap, if you really want to put it that way, but that's about it, right? We don't have an obvious fair value gap, but again, factoring in that this price action that was developing back then was during NFP, so that's a little bit of whipsaw and kind of volatility spike, it's fine. Okay, so what we're looking at here for this week is if the dollar yen can pull back towards 143.40, that would be an area that we can potentially look for a buy, right? Our stop will go below that low, and then of course our target would just put that where the previous high is. Okay, now this setup, naturally, because we're using Fibonacci's, is gonna give you a risk reward of minimum on average 1:2, right? Of course you can look for extended target, but the bare minimum here is at least an average of 1:2. Okay, which means if you're risking 1%, potentially you're going to make back 2% on this particular trade. Okay, so keep an eye on dollar yen. I think this would be probably setting up within this week. You definitely want to have this in your watch list, right? If you can't align with the setups, align with the style that we're trading, then, you know, that is an opportunity for you. Now another one to look out for is gold. Okay, gold here, we are expecting short term the pullback. Okay, we're kind of expecting gold to pull back towards somewhere around 3245. Okay, and after that, around this key area is where we're gonna look to buy, right? So short term, the expectation is for this to move down lower. Okay, so that opens up a possibility where we can look to sell it in the short term, and when price comes into our area of interest, we then flip it and look to buy. Okay, so this is on a high time frame, right? It's on H4. So what we can do is we can go down to the hourly and look for a setup. Okay, so gold here has a very decent setup. It's one of the classic setup that we can really talk about. Okay, first thing first, you can see that we have price in the past, moving higher, coming low. We have a high low, okay, and then price actually take out that high. But once it take out that high, what we observe is price very quickly U-turn and come back down and took out the low. Okay, so this is the part where you can see under SMC principles, this is considered a liquidity sweep or a fake breakout, right? So price attempt to break it, but then reverses very quickly. Okay, so this is what we call a liquidity sweep. Oftentimes is indicated by the symbol XXX, and then after that we have the swing low. The price came down close below that with conviction. Okay, so that's where we have the breakup structure. So the classic setup that I often trade is we want to see a liquidity sweep, right? Some sort of a thick break, and then the market reverses and have a breakup structure. These two conditions is something that we really want to see in a very classic setup. Okay, and then what you can see as the market comes down is that we have this push down with momentum, do a little bit of pullback retracement, and the market continue to push lower, right? So this retracement area becomes what we call a order block. Okay, and this order block here, you can see that it's untested, right? Because price hasn't really come back before. Okay, while all these things are being developed, we can also see that if we take swing high to swing low, we have a Fibonacci around the 67, which coincides very nicely with our order block. Okay, so this is the part where we have that setup, on this lower time frame here, and say, okay, if price were to pull back towards this area of interest, 67, I can look at this setup and say, right, we can potentially take a sell trade. Stop goes above that, target goes below that, and we have a risk reward of 1:2. Okay, now on the high time frame, how does this look like, right? Just like I mentioned, right, on the high time frame, we are expecting that this year will eventually come back and retest this, and then we'll start to look for the buy from there. Okay, so even on this lower time frame, you can see that we have additional room that we can even capitalize on if we really want to. Okay, so going back down to the hourly, that's the level here. Okay, that we can potentially even say, all right, if today I want to go for extended target, I can aim for that low. That will push my risk reward to 1:3. Okay, which is really good. Okay. So that's something you can look up for in terms of like gold, right? Definitely the setup here is pretty great. We'll see, right? Again, there's a high possibility that we might get involved in this trade within the week, right? So have this in your watch list as well. Good. Okay, then next up in the commodity space, we have silver. So silver here is obviously very strong in the momentum to the upside. A little bit different from what's developing in gold, right? So silver here, we have strong momentum to the upside. I would personally want to wait for the pullback first, right? Obviously, the direction here is upside. Okay, you definitely do not want to be selling it where we are right now. There might be an opportunity for us to look to sell it in the short term to trade the pullback. But overarching direction, you definitely want to be more on the upside, right? So again, this is where context comes into trading, understanding for the trade that you're taking. Is it short term? Is it a pullback trade? or is it a trend following trade, right? Okay, so if you want to sell, obviously we don't have any setup at the moment right now. Okay, there's no sign that the market is also pulling back at the moment. But once you are able to look at those and say that, all right, the market seems to be starting to pull back, okay, you can then consider like taking a short-term sell trade to trade the retracement. But overarching direction, you understand that it's actually bullish overall. Okay, so that's on silver. Nothing really there right now. Okay, then we have crude oil. Pretty much similar to silver at this moment. Okay, we are bullish bias, but you want to wait for the pullback. Okay, again, you don't want to be buying at the very, very top. You don't want to be selling at the very, very bottom, right? You always want to wait for a pullback to get involved in the trade, because then that will increase your risk to reward ratio. Okay, so crude oil, nothing there as well. We want to wait for the pullback. There's no short-term sell at the moment as well. There's no setups. Okay, then we have S&P has been very, very slow for the past couple of days, up to like 1 to 2 weeks. You can see this development is just very slow. Okay, so what we are waiting for S&P is basically a pullback. Okay, so basically silver, crude oil, S&P, they're more or less the same, right? You want to be patient, wait for the pullback before you jump in and take the trade. So nothing there, okay? We're not gonna waste too much time on this field here. Okay, then we have the pound yen. Right, so pound yen here will kind of like in a range, right? Price hasn't really broke out of that. We definitely have this as a potential trend line here as well. So nothing there, right? We're basically just gonna be waiting for price to give us something clear. Okay, right now, nothing there. We're just gonna keep it aside. Again, don't waste too much time on things that are not giving us any clear setup or structure. Okay, then we have odd yen. Now, odd yen is interesting because we are currently testing the key level, right? We're kind of like within this 618 right now. Okay, if you look at this here, we have the fair value gap, which the market kind of tapped into very, very briefly. So definitely this is the zone that we want to be looking out for, and today we kind of get a little bit of a reaction that we would love to see. Okay, in terms of wave theory, I'm just simply expecting something like this to develop, right? It's a three wave expectation, where if today we can see some sort of a rejection from the top here, we can expect more downside. Okay, which we may be starting to see that. Maybe I'll give it like 1 or 2 days more. But we can start to see on the lower time frame, you have that nice little rejection. Okay, obviously I would love to see price kind of take up this low, right? Even on the lower time frame. So I'm not too eager to jump in, so quickly. But I'd love for price to take this down. Okay, and then maybe some sort of a pullback, and then that's where we're gonna take that trade. Okay, so if you kind of envision this a little bit, right? If price from here starts to move lower, okay, this area would form what we call an order block. Okay, and if price starts to pull back, that might give us a very decent confluence. Okay, you can envision that a little bit. And then of course that would then be a pretty nice little setup, because then on the high time frame, okay, we are looking at this move down, and then we can start to anticipate that, right, this can be a channel structure development. Okay, so this is building up. You might want to have this in your watch list, because it might develop within the week. Just need to give it maybe a day or two to gain some clarity and then get it set up. Okay. Pound art, to be honest, I don't like what the structure is currently developing. We do have a reaction here, but this reaction is just very, very choppy. Okay, it's not a cleaner structure at all. So to be honest, I would just leave this aside and just continue to remain patient. Okay, so nothing really clear on pound art. Okay, Then we have BTC. Bitcoin here is super clear in terms of the directional bias, right? We have this little move down, take out this low and then instantly reverse with momentum. So that's what we call a liquidity sweep. Okay, and then of course the price went up with momentum. So we are waiting for the corrective pullback. Okay, if you can get a pullback towards the key area right now, somewhere here, that's the area that we're going to look out for opportunities to get involved in it. Okay, good. So to kind of sum up a little bit in terms of like what is worth noting as of today, moving forward, are the ones that I've tagged, right? You can see dollar yen, gold, as well as Aussie yen moving forward. Okay, the rest of it probably you can keep an eye, right? But there's really nothing there. Okay, good. Any questions? Any questions that you guys have? Any questions that you guys have? All good. Right, good. If everything is clear, I think generally that's about it for the week. Okay. Yeah. So as I highlighted, right, these are a few things that you can keep an eye on for. And of course, all the best for the week. Okay, and I'll see you guys in the next session. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.